made contact and shattered.
At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag.
Law enforcement had considered Laundrie the only person of interest in the murder of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Hello? It's John.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here for another ATS live stream. We'll be covering the Idaho 4 homicides today. Sort of a case we're stuck on here on this channel, but I'm so happy that you guys are all here joining me so we can have another discussion about updates and latest information. They will be having an update today. So Moscow PD has put out a statement through the media yesterday that they will hold an update today. Now, Lucy Liu from News Nation, the reporter, asked Moscow police, will there be new information in tomorrow's briefing, which is today? And they pretty much said, we're going to update you guys. So it was sort of an open-ended answer, but I'm not sure the time on their report today, but I'm assuming since I'm on different time than them anyways, I'm on East Coast, that it won't be until probably early evening, late afternoon, but I'm just guessing. If anybody in chat knows a time, let us know, and then we'll relay the message through the broadcast here. So good morning, everybody. And I want to send a special thank you to Sand W for your super sticker. It means so much to me and CDT that you support us and that you're always here hitting the like button. That's really all we ask for. And for you to give me some motivation for the Chris Watts documentary that I've been editing for months. I really appreciate that. And I got your PayPal that you sent last week too. And I really appreciate you and everyone else who supports mine and CDT's channel. All we ask is you guys like our live streams and show up. And then everything else, I'm just flabbergasted that you guys want to help support even more. And it's just very appreciated. I want you guys to know that. So thank you. And good morning, Florida Bass Fishing, Georgie, Trippy Dead, Karen. So guys, Evil CJ, it's good to see you. And everyone else, if I haven't said hello to you, I'm just skimming through. We have a lot to go through. So time is limited for me. So we're going to get through this stuff. What I have, let me just give you a little what we got coming in this stream. Latest from Moscow, which occurred over the weekend. You guys might have seen their statements already, the interviews from the chief, but I've cut out the extra fluff as usual and just put in the highlights. So we also have a former CIA/FBI agent who will be making some remarks on News Nation. Again, guys, I've edited out all the highlights in the segments, so we won't be sitting here watching all the dialogue. It'll just be the good information, and then we can just bounce off of everything that the professionals and everyone is saying, okay? So then we have a former FBI profiler, former FBI special agent. There is a classmate of Ethan who speaks in this, as well as he's a neighbor to the house where the victims lived. So we're also going to revisit statements by Moscow law enforcement and Idaho State Police, and we're going to catch them in some more contradictions. So that's what I have edited and spliced together for you guys. Again, thank you so much for being here. Good morning, Cecile, CA, everyone else who's joining, Mel Mac. Just want to send a special thank you to everyone for being here. It really means a lot. I know it's early in the morning, so it's much appreciated. Okay, so let me just start playing my stuff. If I need to pause, I will definitely pause. We can elaborate and discuss together. And yeah, thank you again for being here, guys. And I got my coffee. I hope you guys have your coffee. And it's super snowy and cold here. So you guys let me know where you're from, what the weather's like, and comment down below too. So thank you guys for being here.
A 24/7 security guard is here to preserve a quadruple murder scene. Neighbors no longer want to comment.
So this was reported last night around 9 o'clock Eastern time. So this is sort of what I've got is the latest updates, and then it trickles back to the last time we talked, which was on Friday. Okay. So this was last night. There is still a cop car, a patrol car out in front of the crime scene. There is still crime scene tape. It is apparently still an active crime scene.
And locals wonder why a full month hasn't yielded more answers.
I actually think that it's highly possible that he is integrated himself back into the community. What this person did, I'm going to say he because my gut tells me that it is a male. What this person tells me is yes, they are very much a cold-hearted killer.
Appreciate that. We had another former FBI agent, Tracy Walder, on the show yesterday, and she says that she feels the killer has likely reacclimated back into the Moscow community, and she also feels the suspect is likely a male. What is your take on that?
I'm not sure how she bases the first assumption that he's reacclimated. I just don't know. There's no way to know that. This person could be overseas. He could be in another state. There's just no way to know.
Again, I just want to reemphasize some of the rumors. And since we're talking about the perpetrator reacclimating themselves back into the community, I'm curious, even though the special agent, the female one prior to this gentleman, was basically saying that's her belief. In her experience, what do you guys think? Do you think that this perpetrator is trying to just blend back into normal life? Or do you think that he's somebody who wasn't even living in the area, who is now, back in a different state living? Again, that whole conversation about so-and-so is in Africa, that was rumor. I think that we need to grasp on certain things that are truth, but then there's certain things that we need to just accept as we've never gotten it verified or clarified. And the fact that one of these Jacks is in Africa, again, we never got that confirmed. So that's never been a real confirmation. I'm not saying it's not true, but I am saying we have to be careful on the things that we cling to as truth, especially after the fake screams came out. I won't even comment on the fake screams. We'll get to the neighbor who said he heard a scream and seen a black SUV in this. But as far as that scream that is out on that channel that we won't even speak on, it's just not, you can't rely on it. And thank you, Liam's mama, for becoming a member. I really appreciate you joining our team in our little research think tank here. So thank you so much. And thank you for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday and Merry Christmas for everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I can't believe Christmas is so close. Luckily, I'm all done shopping. I don't know about you guys.
Where that person is and what they've done. I do feel it's a male. I mean, the physicality that this crime was carried out does indicate, we could be wrong. It's been seen before, but most likely due to the physicality that was required to carry this out, my guess is that it is a male, just because the physical capabilities of subduing people at the same time and stabbing people that many times to cause their death requires a heightened level of physicality.
So it does require a heightened level of physicality, in my opinion, as well. I do believe that it's a male. Again, I don't rely on much of my gut instinct in this case because we really have very little information that I can't even develop my own theories. But the one thing that I really feel strongly about is, to take down 4 people, to even enter a house that had 6 people in it. Like yes, some of them were female, but these females can hold their own if they were up on 2 feet. This guy waited until they were sleeping, of course, easier to attack your prey. Was he in the house already creeping, or was it a situation where this person knew that they had a punch code door, at the front, or that their slider door was going to be unlocked? A lot of people have been focusing on how did he get into the house? But I think there's been very little focus on how he left the house. So that was sort of like the reason of my title for the live stream, because, entering the house is one thing, but to leave once you're bloody, once you have the murder weapon in your hand, I mean, how was this exit? That's really what I'm curious about. And Pamela, a lot of people are starting to think that it was more than one person. Yep, very ballsy, agree, all that glitters. It's just so risky. It was so risky. And I'm almost thinking, like, did this perpetrator like gather their phones or something? Because like, how did they know that not one person out of 6 people in this house was going to pick up their cell phone and be like, 911, I hear something, I'm in my room, I'm behind a locked door, but I don't know what's going on. Like, how did that not say? Now we know that that didn't happen because the roommates on the bottom floor who survived didn't hear anything. And what they did hear, they just chalked up to being party noises. But that's the thing, is how did this perp know that that was going to be safe? You know, it's just the risk level, not even the fact that they had to fight off the people. The fact that these people have a cell phone in arm's reach. I think we've seen a picture of Kaylee. She had an Apple Watch. You know how easy it is just to do tap your watch and call 911. I mean, I just am having a hard time of gathering like how this perpetrator felt so comfortable to just go in there themselves. A lot of people are starting to think maybe there was somebody, you know, keeping watch. I just don't know. I think that could be the reason he skipped the bottom floor, Joe said, right? I mean, it probably took a lot out of this killer. 4 people. There should have been a bloody trail leaving the house, that's for sure. Agree. And there have been a few pictures that we've seen of agents outside kind of, you know, crouched down, looking at some leaves, etc. Was there a trail? And we just haven't heard about it, you know? Yeah, they definitely had been in the house before. I agree, Mayhem and Miracles. I think they knew the house, been there before. And that house is very unique. It's been a house that the owners have added on rooms, etc. They redid it. The whole house had hardwood floors or hard floors. Now that, to me, is probably why that blood leaked out to the front of the house. You know what I mean? Like, things are just not absorbing that blood and stuff like carpet would have, or even like what are they underneath your carpet, that little padding. So, you know, the wood floors, everything needs to be kind of torn apart. Have we even seen anybody like go in the house and come out with like wood from the floor? Because like, I know that my subs and I have talked about how the hardwood floors, you know, could hold a lot of evidence underneath there, this and that. I'm just curious. Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense that there would not be a trail, Queen of Hearts said. And good morning, Andrea, and everyone else who has joined us. Hit the like if you haven't done so already. We'll force this live stream out into the algorithm and get a bunch more people in here to kind of think tank with us. Brittany says not all fatal wounds bleed excessively. At first, it can take a few minutes to accumulate a large amount of blood. Yeah. And think about all the hours until they were discovered, you know. Crazy.
And that would lead me to be a male. Again, that's an assumption based on what I know, the limited stuff that I know of the physical evidence at the crime scene. But I would agree with her assumption that it's a male. I'm not sure about the first assumption about whether this person is reacclimated, because we just don't know who it is. I think all avenues are being explored. I think there's a lot of work being done in this case. There's a tremendous amount of leads that are coming in to be covered. I don't know because I'm not privy to the inside of the investigation, and none of us are, and none of us should be. The only information that should be coming out should be information that's relevant to the public safety or to strategically benefit the investigation. Other than that, I don't mind at all if the police are not giving daily updates or weekly updates. I mean, I'm not as concerned with that. There's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of speculation about it. This is only a month. People are talking like a month is a long time in an investigation. It is not.
And he's, you know, obviously experienced in this department, saying a month is not that long. And think about it. This is a quadruple homicide. Now, for YouTubers covering this case, it's been tricky, not only because of the contradictions coming out in the media and law enforcement, but because there is 4 victims here. There is 4 people for us to kind of not only get to know, because, you know, that's what you do when you cover cases. You obviously get to know the victims, and you start realizing like, oh, okay, well, they worked here and they had this class and they knew this person through that. But this is 4 people that people are ironing out. So law enforcement is obviously having the same struggle, trying to figure out what would link one perpetrator to all 4 of these people. Again, is it just one, or who knows, And Christy B said, did you ever see law enforcement enter the scene with shoes covered? I did. Yes. I've seen them with booties on. I've seen them exit the house and take the booties off. So I have seen law enforcement individuals using the proper protocol. Now, Ed Wallace has said something about the PP, what are they called? PPE outfits, like the hazmat outfits or whatever. He said something, I think, I don't want to misquote him, but about how like he wished they were all kind of wearing them more, like every officer or whatever. But again, I don't want to misquote him, but I think there was a comment made about wishing that there was sort of more of those hazmat outfits being worn. But again, every agency is going to do it differently. There is no like overall federal, this is what's required, but it would be nice to kind of see a universal protocol. Thank you, Brittany. PPE. 3 letters, couldn't even remember it. Did Jack ever return their phone calls? Lulu asked. As far as I know, no. But again, we don't know that detail. That is a subtle detail that I guess they've never released. We just know that he was sleeping at the time, didn't answer. But you're right. We don't know as far as did he wake up and think, oh my gosh, let me call Kaylee and Maddie back. Don't know there exactly. I feel it was someone familiar with the house and had an agenda, right? I mean, that house is just so unique. Like, even the furniture being where it is, like to be able to make a clean exit that way, Okay, and let's just continue, guys. Keep commenting in chat. I am reading them. If I don't pull them up, don't be offended. I really appreciate all the comments coming through. I just want to get through this stuff. Okay, guys?
We just had a case in the Delphi murders in Indiana that took 5 years, and they just got the guy in custody. These investigations take time. This was a brutal crime scene, a lot of forensic and physical evidence that was gathered that has to be gone through in a proper way, oftentimes in a laboratory setting. And so these things take time. And
yeah, the lab stuff is going to take time. That, we have to keep emphasizing, like, things aren't just like a forensic files episode, right? Somebody asked something. I wanted to pull it up. Oh, it was something about, okay, Jen Madison. Hello. What time of day did they remove the victim? So the coroner said she came to the house at 5:30 in the evening, 5:30 in the evening. So hello, Mark. Good morning. It's good to see you. Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Craig G.
The public needs a measure of patience with this investigation. I'm sure the police, if they had anything that related to the actual public safety, if there were people endangered, they would put that out. But barring that, I don't see any issue with how long this investigation is taking. What we do in these kind of cases is we draw 2 circles. One.
How do you guys feel about this retired FBI special agent saying that there's nothing wrong with how long this is taking? Now, again, I believe that a lot of this like outrage of like comes from the media. Again, it is sort of crazy. There's no reward. There's no sketch even. We just got a vehicle description. I mean, it does look sort of crazy, And imagine being a civilian there, living in that community. Red team agrees with him. But, they want answers. Moon Rain says it's a 6-month process, I think. Jesse Lynn says, I think a month is not long for 4 murders. I agree, Seagate. There should be a reward. And, they sort of talked about the reward stuff over the weekend. I don't know if I edited some of it in, but there was a part where they basically said, like, it's going to look desperate if you put a reward out now. Like, we want confidence in law enforcement. We want to feel like, okay, they're not telling us stuff because they told us it's important to the investigation, so they must have some direction. Like, we need some sort of reassurance, all while understanding that these things take time. So like everything, it's got to be about balance.
Is the circle of the victim and everybody that's involved in the victim's life. The other circle is the location where the homicide occurred. So that's the house. Where those two circles overlap, the middle is where your suspect is probably going to come from. So whoever had egress into that location easily is obviously going to be elevated on your suspect list. So.
And here's the thing, since we're speaking on suspects, and Tom N., thank you for becoming a member. I can't, for some reason, StreamYard doesn't show like the membership. Well, sorry, this is like a not you joining. That's why it's not showing on StreamYard. It's just you sharing that you've been a member for 3 months. So thank you so much. I can't see that on my side, but I've gone to the other side, and I just want to thank you for becoming a member here for 3 months. And everything you bring to the stream, your comments are always appreciated. So thank you so much. Now, for this stuff talking about suspects, where is the corner club CCTV footage? For them to be holding that back, I feel is significant. Do you think the bar has CCTV footage? Do you think that there's a reason they haven't shared that with the public? Was there something that took place at the bar that is sort of, a red flag? And here's the thing that I'm also thinking. Remember, Joe V, the heavier set guy with the beard who's in the footage at the grub truck, he said something sticking up for Jack, the hoodie guy, about he just wanted to make sure they got home safe, right, guys? So then I started thinking, like, well, was there some reason why the girls were on an alert? Was there a reason why Jack felt like, well, I should make sure they're safe? Like, was there some incident that took place where Jack felt the need, hoodie guy felt the need to walk them to the food truck and to make sure they got home safe? Basically saying hoodie guy's not involved, but hoodie guy knows about an incident that took place maybe earlier in that night. I don't know, guys. Yeah, the bar is probably loaded with cameras. Good morning, Mike. It's good to see you. Yeah, if they didn't have a camera at the bar, then we're talking about some wild, wild west saloon, I guess. But yeah, I'm just very interested in the bar setting. And yeah, Brandy brings up the good point that we brought up last week. That frat holds answers, just my opinion. I think that they do. I don't know like the extent, but I definitely think the frat knows more than what the public knows. So they try to play it off like, well, we told the police everything we needed to, or everything that we knew. I'm curious what all that is, like it might be their story. They might have nothing to do with what took place, but what their story has to bring to the table might be significant. Somebody did bring that up, Brittany. She said, did you ever notice the chick in the white at the food truck looks like she has dirty knees? Maybe she fell and saw it. Maybe. There's a lot of weird things going on in that footage that I've discovered after it came out. In fact, I want to be pulling that up at the end of the stream here after I play all these clips for you guys, because I'm under the impression, I forgot to tell you guys in the beginning of the stream as part of my listed of stuff to play, I'm under the impression that Maddie doesn't just say F you to the guys. Now, I don't know who she's saying it to. Some people think she's saying it to Joe V. Some people think she's saying it to Hoodie Guy. I've edited out the food truck guys talking when they're like, whoa, that was a rush, blah, blah, blah. I took their talking out. I needed to hear exactly what Maddie was saying to them. I'll play that for you after all these clips. But she says more than just F you to them. She says, we'd never F you. And I forgot to tell you guys, I'll be playing that for you. So stick around. Let me know what you think. Somebody had said that in a live chat that I was in. I think it might have been on allegedly Brittany's Jay's channel, but one of her subs said she doesn't say F you to them. She says, we would never F you. And I was like, no way, no way. So sure enough, I bring it up in my editing studio. I take out the food truck guys' conversation, and you can hear it so much clearer. So I will definitely play that for you guys. So let me know your thoughts as well when we get there.
So yes, I think that's a key. People that were in that house before, people that know how to get in and out of that house, that would be key, because in this case, it clearly indicates that they somehow got in quietly and left quietly. And so that seems to indicate a person who either knew or gained the knowledge of how to enter that place quietly. As long as this case is generating this kind of publicity, people are going to be calling in. And every time the police give an update, that usually generates more tips coming in. When it goes cold is when no tips and the phones stop ringing and people stop talking about it. That's when it goes cold. But we're a long, long way from that. They've got thousands of tips. Both the call people are calling in, people are using social media, people are emailing those tips in. So I think that we're a long way from this case even being close to being cold.
Investigation right now.
We're working steady on the investigation still. We're still receiving tips. We're still receiving items in from, down at the lab. Things are continuing. We're still pushing forward, and we're at the normal process of investigation. We're still doing a lot of interviews, and I'm talking to a lot of people.
At this point,
we still have the same amount of staff. Idaho State Patrol, our local Moscow Police Department, detectives, and FBI, not only here locally, but still across our nation, across our state.
Police logs show cops were called to the house twice in one night in September.
Who here is happy that they went through college before all this social media stuff was around? Because look at these kids. Like, now they're forever on the internet, like, doing this stuff. So this clip was from an Inside Edition segment that came out, but I felt it was noteworthy to show you guys. I mean, look at how many people cross these girls and Ethan's path. We talk about how we feel the perpetrator is a white male, possibly. Okay, well, has anyone ever noticed everybody who has come out and spoke is a white male? The frat president, the neighbor. I mean, the list goes on. I'm just like, holy cow, like, everyone almost falls into this like profile, but yeah, anyways, I'm just so happy I'm not these kids like out on the internet. Like, imagine how these people feel having this on Inside Edition. But anyways, guys, just watch and see, all the people that are in here. It could have been anyone that some of these victims rubbed the wrong way.
House twice in one night in September over noise complaints. According to neighbors, there were loud gatherings most weekends involving 15 to 20 guests gathered in the backyard at the fire pit. One neighbor says she routinely had to wear earplugs to go to bed.
And remember, the first interviews from the neighbors and from the neighborhood at that time it was eerily quiet that weekend. So going back into debunking this neighbor who has come out now, changing his story, saying, I heard a scream. Well, according to the surviving roommates, that doesn't match their account. And according to the rest of the neighborhood, that doesn't match what they're saying either. So yeah, Christy B, it's understandable, especially since he came out saying that now he's carrying a gun around with him. Again, not saying that he's involved. I'm just saying I get why everyone's kind of got their eyebrow raised at everybody who speaks out. Tom N., I have a theory of what I believe happened and why it happened. They are close to making an arrest, I think. I really hope you're right. And I like that we're going to send that into the universe, speak it into existence, right, everyone? So thank you, Tom N., for the super chat. And I really hope that that is the case before Christmas. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, I know. Me too, Ashley. She said, I would have gone crazy if I lived in a house with all that noise trying to study and sleep. Yeah, that would never happen for me. And thank you again, Tom. We really appreciate that. So this is Robbie, and now here on Inside Edition, her name is Robbie. Last week when we pulled up her first interview from Moscow, it said Robin. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to get to know their public information officer, and they've got her name different in different interviews. Oh my gosh. But anyways, so she's going to be speaking on how they need, and she emphasizes they need to speak with the owner and the driver of that Hyundai.
Significance of the car is we know it was there. We know we haven't spoken to who was in that car, who may have owned that car, and we need to speak to them. We know that that person could really have the information we need to break the case.
Using them.
So that person in that white car could have the information they need to break the case. I mean, that's huge. That is huge. Like, they need to be, I mean, what kind of process would it take to find that car? You know, it's going to take time, obviously, but I'm wondering how long they've known about it. Why did they take almost a month to tell the public? Why, you know, or how long did it take before they even heard about it? And yeah, Jen, a lot of people are saying the red car is a red herring. I don't know. And guys, I forgot to mention in the beginning of the stream, I've put up the tip line here on the right side of the screen in numerous images that I'm sharing. So just so you guys have the tip line, and will be put throughout the stream on the screen next to whatever I'm displaying. And thank you so much, Terry B, for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. And what a pretty picture. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. If you could just hit the like button, that's all I'm asking. Mike coming in with the $10 super chat, but nothing to chat me with. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you. The channel appreciates Mike. He's always bringing good insight.
We've had an amazing amount of tips come in on the white car. We appreciate everybody's help that has been sending in those tips. And
okay, good, Mike. I'm happy that you shared your thoughts. I'm with your thinking, Amber, but white car, a dead end. My thoughts. I mean, at this point, now that they've released that they're looking for it, it's probably ditched somewhere, right? Yeah, Mike is a keeper. We'll keep him around. But even if they ditch the car, I don't know. Would there be evidence to link somebody? There would definitely be blood in that car if they left the scene of the crime in the vehicle. Now, are we thinking that he got into a vehicle, guys? That woman, the public information officer, said, we know that car was there. We need to speak to that owner of that car. So that sounds pretty serious, right? I mean, if they were going to come out with a suspect, it would be the white car right now. It sounds like. Brandy says, so I think the perp ran out the front door. And you're referring to the door that has the wreath on it, not the slider door, right? I think that's definitely possible because remember, we have the interview from the media that we played last week where the woman says, I spoke with a neighbor and she said around 8:30 to 9 in the morning, the front door was wide open. And then we had the chief come out saying like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Again, law enforcement can lie and they will lie to protect the integrity of the investigation. Was he just saying that to kind of keep that secret, like, or that detail on the down low, or was he literally confused? It's hard to say. I'd like to think that it's part of the tactic though. But anyways, you know, and then we talk about, hi, Carol, it's good to see you. Then hi, in T's apple bottom jeans and EE Caroline. Could be white car is truly uninvolved, but they are hoping there is a dash cam. Maybe. There are rumors of the front door being open, and we'll get to that in the stream as well, guys. So I'm going to lay that out for you too. Yeah, the car is the focus.
investigators are vetting those and they're following up on those, and the response has been very great. We appreciate all the help from across the nation and our community. Well, what we want people to know is that individuals who are being harassed in this situation, people need to be careful because some of it's happening online, some of it's happening through phone calls and in person, and people could be charged possibly in the future if it continues to a point where it reaches a criminal element. One, just call us anytime that there's any of that happening so that we can deal with that immediately. You know, there's been a lot of speculation and rumors, and what we want to say is we're the official source of information. And we want people to pay attention to what we're putting out there, because that is accurate information, and anything that comes from other sources is either rumor or speculation, and we want to put an end to that as soon as possible.
Initial report. So he did come out saying, a lot of rumors and speculation. That came out after the fake news came out about some scream that was heard that we won't name the channel's name because he doesn't deserve any attention. But I know that you guys have all heard about it. And if you need somebody to kind of lay down what I'm talking about, if you go to Mel's channel, he pretty much exposes this guy for being the fraud that he is. Carrying on. Now, we've spoken again about this neighbor, Harsh, last week. Now, I think he came out with a statement after we did our live stream on Friday. And he said there was a black luxury SUV there, and I heard a scream. So that is sort of what this little part is about. We're going to just narrow down, which neighbors' information sounds credible and which, in my opinion, I just am not clinging to. Tom N says, that car is probably 1,000 miles away and burned to the ground. I actually think that the monster did not know them personally. Wow. Everything is up in the air as a possibility. I mean, some people have even speculated, could it be a professor and all this stuff who was obsessed with them? I mean, listen, we don't know. We literally don't know what they know, So in my opinion, I think that everything is up on the table as a possibility until we get more information. E.E. Caroline says, I see 3 points of exit and entry: balcony, slider, front, any or all in any order. We can figure a crime timeline to cover every lots of paths. And that's the other thing, E. Caroline, is I was also thinking, like, not only would we need to lay out every single exit possibility, but then I'm also factoring in that police body cam footage that they released where it shows the cops speaking to those young adults. I don't want to say kids because Christy B will be like, why are you calling them kids? All right. So that was around 3:15, 3:18 in the morning that occurred with the cops outside. We could see the house in the background. Now, if you're the perpetrator and you've been planning this, now I have to think, did this person, the perpetrator, see the cops dealing with those young adults? Did they see them and wait until the cop dispersed and everyone parted ways? Because although we didn't see any cop lights on, how you can see, like, oh, down the road someone got pulled over. We didn't really see that. So I'm thinking, like, how do I factor in the fact that this cop was outside near where this perp was about to attempt their crime, or possibly just did? I don't know. I'm just trying to fit in, like, did the perpetrator wait until the cop was away, like completely, like out of sight, or was it literally happening congruently in the same time? I'm just very confused on the timeline as that body cam footage. And they've said they died from any time between 3 to 4 in the morning. I've even seen reports that said 3 to 5 in the morning. I'm like, which is it? So I don't know. It's just another thing to kind of fit into the puzzle. That cop being outside with those young adults in the time frame, if we're thinking about someone, planning and stalking and waiting until the right moment, not only would they have had to wait until the lights went on and they were asleep, but did they also wait for that cop to disperse with those young adults? I don't know. It's all a big puzzle, but I think that it's something that we need to think about too. Would this person continue what the plan was with that cop outside down the block with the young adults? Tom N says, law enforcement says this is a targeted attack. All murder for hire are considered targeted attacks. This is what I think may have happened. Time will tell. Who would want them? Who would want all 4 of them gone, like with a hired attack, though? I'm curious your take on that. And RAS is agreeing. And like I said, everything is on the table. A lot of people have their speculations, I'm seeing, which is fair because we've got literally no answers.
Had neighbors stating that it was an unusually quiet night. Mr. Harsh himself posted on November 15th at 1:16 p.m. 4 killed and stabbing across street. No screams, no evidence, no trace. So like professional killers, but why?
So this is Mr. Harsh's Facebook post days after the crime. This was aired on, I think, Friday night by Ashley Banfield. Now, this screenshot was going around before I seen it on News Nation. I believe JLR and CDT were one of the first to share it. So very interesting. You know, this is his initial reaction. Then after the news segment airs, things change a little bit on Mr. Harsh's Facebook page.
On 3 sorority girls doesn't make sense. Weeks later, for whatever reason, Mr. Harsh changes his initial statement and says that he heard a scream around 4 a.m. He then also states that he had seen a black SUV, neither of which have been confirmed by the police. After Mr. Harsh comes out to the media and changed his story, he also changes his Facebook history on the post. Once it started to go around that his original post stated that there were no screams, you have to wonder why all of a sudden did he feel the need to go back and edit no screams out of the post.
Again, this was uncovered by CDT. That's where I seen it, at least. And this was something that I didn't even know Facebook has. It's a new feature that they've added to Facebook where if you put up a status or if you put anything up and you edit it, there is a way that we can all see what the original one was, why you edited it, when it was edited, etc. So why Mr. Harsh is trying to backtrack, you know, to me is a huge red flag. I don't know if it's wanting his 15 minutes of fame or what, but pretty much I'm not really relying on anything Mr. Harsh has said. I'm sorry. I know that people really want to cling to this scream being real, but I'm just not there yet. Now, the black SUV, the luxury SUV, we have to remember luxury because it's not a Ford or a Chevy. Those are not considered luxury vehicles. So there was a black Ford in the SUV that was towed away. Now, we've heard rumors that it's Ethan's sister. We haven't heard 100% confirmation. We've also seen that Kaylee brought her Range Rover, which is considered a luxury vehicle, to the area to show it off. It was brand new, which means the neighborhood was not used to seeing it. Now, that is a two-toned SUV, which they're doing nowadays to cars. You'll see they'll have like a black kind of top, you know, maybe with a sunroof or whatever. And then the rest of the vehicle is like a solid color. Hers was half black from the top and then silver. Again, it's an SUV. It is not 100% black, but if Mr. Harsh is looking at the driveway from a certain angle and he's seen it from the top, to me, that might look like a black SUV. Again, I don't know. You know, he might have, like everyone, eyewitness accounts are not reliable. Did he see the SUV driving around and think that's new? But it was Kaylee's? I don't know, guys. Like, I think that whole black SUV thing is kind of like, it can be thrown up in the air as a possibility in my mind. But since it's coming from Mr. Harsh, unfortunately, I'm just not really there yet as far as believing it or relying on it. Yeah, Brittany, exactly. Like, what's the luxury SUV to him? It's hard to say, but I'm going to go with he wasn't referring to the Ford in the driveway. But again, we haven't heard anything about that. You know what I mean? We've only heard the white Hyundai, and the law enforcement has come out over the weekend and said to News Nation, we don't know anything about an SUV.
I don't feel Mr. Harsh's information is credible. I believe his first statement, which stated no scream. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe Mr. Harsh is credible? Moscow Police Department put out this statement regarding the black SUV. We have not heard anything about an SUV. However, If there is something we need the public's assistance with, we will release it like we did for the Hyundai.
The neighbor said he dismissed that scream as a party sound and said he didn't think anything of it, even when investigators knocked on his door the next day. He also says he told police about a black luxury SUV that he hadn't seen in the neighborhood before. He said it was only parked a few spaces away from the front of the crime scene.
Well, I would believe that what happened is he didn't give that information initially. He has now given that information. And I would believe the FBI and state police and Moscow PD have looked at that, maybe had already identified this SUV and have cleared it. The car that can't clear is the Elantra, and that's why they're focused on that.
And now that was a former FBI agent, Jennifer Coffindoffer. I know you guys probably recognize her voice. She did a great segment on News Nation over the weekend. I've clipped some of those highlights in here as well. And thank you everyone for being here.
To talk to the occupants of the white Hyundai. They're not asking for the owner. They're not asking for the driver. They're asking for the occupants. Is there something I need to read into that language?
Yes, I think so. That really stood out to me too.
And remember last Friday, for those who were here, we mentioned that here on our live stream before this news segment, that it's very interesting. The press release that has the white Hyundai information states they wanted to speak to the occupants, and it was in plural. Does that mean more than one? Is that just verbiage that they put out there and it was we don't need to think into it? That was always up in the air as a question. Now here it seems like Ashley and Jennifer Coffindoffer are interested in that verbiage as well.
You, Ashley, and that's that the information they have related to this vehicle is that there were occupants inside of it. And that is probably coming from an interview, possibly backed up from camera footage, but certainly that is a key piece of information that they put out with that particular precise language. It's important. Law enforcement is ferreting through all of these leads, all of these tips. They did their initial canvas, right? And the people who did that information or got that information pulled together, that is going to a command post setting. That information then is being distributed to the case agent from the FBI and to the lead detective from Moscow, as well as ISP. Those are the people that have the answers to these questions. From there, it's funneled out, and the chief of police has been the spokesman in this case. So I think there's some communications that may be lacking. And the other thing, Ashley, for instance, with the neighbor, they canvassed, they talked to him, they did a full interview, and now he's coming out with these additional details. As you pointed out, those details don't match up with what he wrote. So my belief would be that those agents believe his initial interview is what was accurate.
Now, what do you guys think? Do you think Mr. Harsh's initial interview is accurate, or do you think the statements that he's made after are the truth? And after he edits his Facebook post from a month ago, which ones are you guys relying on? And thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. He said, Mike, Amber and CDT are the best at paying attention to words said. We do have an ear and an eye for detail. That's for sure. That's why we get along so well and cover these cases congruently. So if anyone hasn't checked out CDT's channel, please do so. And if she's in chat, let us know if you're going live later too. And we'd love to jump over there and continue this discussion over there. Tom N said, story out that the girls had a former roommate or friend that the girls were mean to, and the roommate friend unallied themselves. I feel like there is some kind of revenge motive involved, a murder for hire. Listen, I want to see every little detail and paper trail on that, because everything needs to be looked at. You know what I mean? Tom N says high-end luxury SUVs. Range Rover, her Range Rover was so nice. I know that. And thank you again, Tom N. We really appreciate your input. Twisted Gemini says, I believe that his first statement. Okay, yes, me too. No scream. Tony says the one before. Is anyone believing the new statement? I guess I should ask. Thank you, Mike. We try to be very detail oriented.
You know, I truly believe there is a huge communication gap and error, and just the Moscow PD not handling the communication like they should be. And listen, this has the FBI's footprint all over it. The FBI isn't even going to talk, isn't even going to answer a question, isn't going to send out an email. So certainly the FBI is trying to keep all the information encapsulated, yet they want to have some information go out. So Moscow has been put at the point. But possibly Moscow, the chief, doesn't even have those particulars yet. Because again, Ashley, there's this chain of custody, if you will, or chain of information that's going up. And
I just want to pause it here and bring up two things while I have a pause. One, CDT's comment. She said, I don't believe the scream, but I do wonder about the black SUV, since he claimed to report that soon after. Yeah, I'd like to know if there is a paper trail of that report about the black SUV. Or if he's just saying, I told them, you know what I mean? Because if he's just stating that he told them, then I don't believe him. But who knows? He may have. And like I said, that black SUV, even though they're just discounting it, it's still something that I think we should keep in mind, because there's also been, and I don't want to just throw speculation out there, but there's a reason I didn't show it to you guys, but I'll let you know because you'll probably hear about it. There's a picture of one of the surviving roommates with a luxury black SUV behind her. Something or nothing. That's what I'm going to say. The other reason why I'm pausing this now, I don't know if this is the crew that had the cowboy hat guy with them, but a lot of people were wondering who those guys were. Now, again, is this the same crew? You guys let me know. But this guy's got a U.S. Marshal badge around his neck. So that could answer that question that everyone had, if this guy is with that guy with the cowboy hat, or is this a different, crew? Because sometimes the News Nation and like the media clips that I get for you guys, the visuals aren't like the day that they shared it. It's just like from the case, you know what I mean? That they're just replaying. So if this guy is them, then they're marshals. This guy's got the badge right there. No, Strange Exchange, you are not blocked. I see you. And I like your picture.
And I think that the people at the top of that chain then aren't releasing first, and then secondarily, they're trying to release a little bit, and the communication is just completely lost in that process.
With no suspect and no murder weapon.
Now, this next part, thank you, Tama. FBI heavily involvement speaks volumes on conspiracy. They might have a feeling that there's other elements too than just one perp who was a stalker, right? I mean, there is a reason, even the law enforcement source that I speak with, who's a federal level, was very surprised on the number of FBI agents on this case. But again, it is a 4 quadruple homicide. So, but what else was I going to say? Yeah. So this segment coming up now was from, I believe, Friday. It was from a smaller local news station, and it didn't have very many views on it, but I found the information very important and just interesting. They speak with a DNA expert. I don't know exactly his credentials, but he works on the Idaho Innocence Project. And I just realized I spelled Idaho wrong at the bottom there. Sorry, guys. 2 H's. But anyways, it's very interesting. I hope you guys like what this DNA expert has to say.
And you might be wondering what is at the scene. The answer is likely a lot if police have DNA evidence, which experts say is commonly found in most stabbing cases.
Idaho is home to one of the top experts in the entire world on forensic DNA. His name is Greg Hampikian, and he's been instrumental in exonerating the wrongfully accused like Amanda Knox and Christopher Tapp. And he says he wouldn't be surprised at all if investigators in Moscow already have the DNA of the U of I killer.
If it's a deep wound, their hand can come in contact with my shirt, right? Or my skin if it's on the skin. And so those sites where the injury is in a stabbing wound are very important to swab and collect DNA from. So, the perpetrator got in and left and probably handled some of those objects. Just make sure you take a sample from everybody you talk to. Just ask them, will you give us a DNA sample? A crime is like a surgery. It takes as long as it has to take. If they're going to do genealogy, that's a different kind of, crime surgery than just going out and you have a suspect you compare to a door handle or something.
Hampikian says it is common for assailants who use a knife to cut themselves. And even if their blood and DNA is mixed with that of the victim, modern technology can easily separate the two. And Hampikian says that it should take no more than a day or two to get results back from a lab if a case is a top priority.
Did you hear that aspect? That guy told this media source, if the case is a top priority, the lab results should come back in a day or two. Now that is news to me because I'm hearing it could take up to this many weeks or it could take up to this amount. And I'm like, okay. I'm wondering if what we're really waiting on isn't the DNA lab stuff, which, that Moscow did say that they are still doing stuff in the lab. But I'm wondering if they're also just waiting on, cell phone triangulation and just the metadata from everyone around there. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting that expert is saying that if they needed results back, it and it's a top priority, it can come back in days. So that to me was interesting.
I knew Ethan really briefly in a class that we had. I think it was last fall. Seemed like a really good dude. So pretty sad to hear the news. And it's also the one person that I knew in Sigma Chi.
But, you think...
I thought that was it was very quick, but it was a neighbor of where the victim's house was. But he also had a class with Ethan. And I just thought that was something I hadn't seen. Not a lot of people come out and speak about Ethan. And I just don't want him to get lost in the mix. Obviously everyone in this case lost their life too soon, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to include that neighbors speaking about Ethan, even though it was quick. Apparently he was friends with him, had a class with him. So, and then obviously everybody knows Joseph Scott Morgan. So I've included his clip that happened this weekend as well.
Well, wow, we've got this evidence-rich environment. We're going to be able to get this thing shut down really quick, come to a conclusion. And it's amazing, many times the more data you have, the more complex the case becomes. Most people in their day-to-day lives don't think about just touching surfaces and going through the motions and that sort of thing. But every time you touch something, you leave a trace behind. And in this particular case, if you have people coming and going, they're leaving these kind of slough skin cells everywhere. That's where we get touch DNA. And then we think about the victims in this particular case and the DNA that was left behind as a result of blood. But you have to think about something else. If you had any of the individuals within the structure that lived there that had intimate relationships with anybody else, that could provide, an evidence-rich source as well.
The crime was actually very successful. And in my experience in cases that I've worked as a profiler, when I see a crime like this, multiple victims, early morning hours, the individual gets in, he kills 4 people, and then he leaves successfully, he's able to navigate around that house. And I'm not talking about being familiar with it just because the floor plans were on the internet. This person has taken a huge risk. There could be weapons inside the home. There could be cameras inside the home. There could be alarms.
And now she brings up the alarms and the cameras as being significant. How did they know that wasn't going to happen? They've been in there before, right? That's what everyone's sort of thinking. I hate to do this, but I have to pause the stream so that a moderator can block Fred Scott. They've blocked me, so I can't see them in chat, but I see everybody telling them not to spread fake news. And I do not want fake news spread here. So I need a moderator to block them because they have me blocked and I can only see his comments coming through StreamYard.
other animals, other people. So this person planned out this crime. They're not going to leave to chance not being able to navigate through that home. So that tells me they've been inside the home. The second thing it tells me, based on other cases that I've worked, this person is comfortable being inside of other people's homes. So I would be looking for that kind of criminal behavior actually in their background.
Thanks for being with us. Based on the evidence, what can you infer about the suspect or suspects in this case?
Well, I would say that this is someone that planned this crime. This is someone that went in and engaged in really unprovoked homicide. So that tells me that this is someone that is very cold-blooded, very callous, intended to kill these people. He went in the early morning hours, so not to have a conversation. So we know that offenders leave their personalities at the crime scene. So once he left that crime scene, he still had the same personality, a cold and callous individual who engages in high-risk behavior, somebody that can come across as appearing to be normal and is very attached to that knife. And I think as the investigation continues, he'll have sort of a disregard for the investigation. He will say derogatory things about the police, and he probably has also, at least from what I can tell right now, based on public source information, he could have a serious disdain for women, and particularly the victims that he went after.
I just want to pick up on two things you said right there. You talk about the suspect as a man, and I'm wondering why that's your sense. And then number two, you're suggesting that we might see some kind of acting out by the suspect.
Well, to the point of him being a male, I think statistically that's what we expect. However, if investigators received a very strong lead that they were looking for a female, then they'll certainly need to proceed and follow that lead. No, I don't think that when he's out in public, I don't think he's necessarily acting out. Otherwise, I think he would have come to the attention of law enforcement. Okay. I think this is someone that can move back into whatever neighborhood or society or city he came from and not generate a lot of suspicion. Again, because I think the public out there really wants this case solved. So they're going to turn in their next door neighbor if they thought the next door neighbor was responsible. I think this person is being able to be a good actor.
And think about the reward aspect, guys. You know, we've also had the conversation about the frat possibly having more information, but not sharing it maybe. Again, that's just speculation. I'm not saying that that's the truth. But don't you think a reward might be able to break that type of loyalty bond that could be taking place? Now, she said that would make maybe somebody speak out or whatever. Would that be something that would encourage maybe somebody to, you know what? I know I've made this oath to my brothers, or say it's the sorority, or to my sisters, but I could really use this reward money. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that is the angle that this is going down. I'm just saying, would a reward actually be able to break a bond that maybe could be in place? And thank you, Sarah Adams, for being here. And I'm glad that you like how I've clipped the Mary Ellen's interviews. She's still a criminal profiler. They can deduce a lot more than anyone can without the case file in front of her. And she is still teaching, I forget what university she's at, but yeah, this is just all, it's something that this woman lives and breathes. So I love her input.
And kind of hold all that violence and those vital ideations inside.
There's reporting one student had more severe knife wounds. If that's true, what's the significance?
When you look at a case like this, where there are multiple victims, you look to see, was any one victim treated differently? And that treated differently can mean, was that victim stabbed more times, stabbed more excessively? Were there other injuries to that victim? Because that could mean that that particular victim was actually the focus of the attack, and that's why there was a quote unquote special treatment of the victim. And it could be a range of behavior that the offender inflicts on the victim, but the attention is on that one or on those two victims. And that is pretty significant, because it gives investigators the information that they really want to go back and develop the victimology of that targeted victim. That becomes really important. Know as much as you can about that victim to be able to see at what point did that victim possibly come on the radar screen of that offender.
I hear.
Instrumental violence is a unique type of violence. Two types of violence, reactive violence and instrumental violence. Reactive violence is if you punch somebody in the nose, they'll punch you back. Instrumental violence is cold-blooded, it's callous, it's unprovoked, usually inflicted on strangers, but here's the key. Instrumental violence is the preferred violence of a psychopathic individual. The old term was sociopath. The new term that we use now is psychopathic. This is an individual that's not mentally ill and has absolutely no conscience or no remorse or guilt for what they do, and they prefer instrumental violence. I believe that based on the success, unfortunately, that this person had, this is somebody that if he has not been engaged with a human being using that knife, he's used it on a warm-blooded animal.
I mean, listen.
So she was asked there, do you think that he's killed previously? And she said, well, if it hasn't been on a person, I believe that it's definitely probably been on a warm-blooded animal. So I thought that that was interesting. And now this next segment is kind of, it was in the, here's the thing. Mary Ellen made multiple interviews and I clipped them all there. This one is specific to News Nation, where she was on it with a retired sergeant from the NYPD. And he's kind of going to bounce off of the stuff that she kind of started the segment with. So I hope you enjoy.
And it's a knife. It's an up close and personal weapon. He brought the weapon with him, apparently. And he went to basically, you know, hunting for whatever target he was looking for. I still think that he went into one room, he killed the two people there, and then realized that they weren't the ones that he was looking for, and then went to the other room.
So what do you guys think about that? I think that that was a theory. Former retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer had said earlier in the case that, you know, it could have been possible they were looking for their victim and went to the wrong rooms. It was going room to room. Interesting that this sergeant weeks later, almost a month later, is coming out saying that that's the theory that he's kind of agreeing with or maybe going down. And Sarah agrees with him. I'm curious what anyone else in chat or on replay are thinking.
So it's important that investigators try to determine which victim was first and then try to piece it together that way and maybe look at that person as the nexus of why this killer, chose them. We also have to consider, too, that this person was inside the house before they even came home, which is just another thing that we have to look into, that this person got in, was waiting for them to come home, wait for them to go to sleep, and then did the crime. So that's just another angle that they have to look at and just piece together this timeline. I mean, the timeline's got a lot of holes. I agree with Mary Ellen that this person has been there before. He knows the layout. He knows exactly that the door is going to be open. Well, we don't know which door he came in from, the front or the back. Hopefully, investigators, between all the blood spatter and everything else, that he had to walk through it and they know how he left, and then maybe he touched something else, maybe a doorknob or a door, or leaned against something, and maybe they can be able to get maybe a palm print or something else like that. I know people think that he might be wearing gloves, might be wearing a Tyvek suit, but listen, in a violent attack like that, I don't care if he's wearing a suit of armor. He's gonna end up cutting himself or leaving something behind him. And that's just the way it goes. And that's what I've experienced, too, with some of these knife attacks. Generally, the person does cut themselves.
It seems like that, along with being able to rely on the fact that this is a male, it seems like another thing that I'm pretty much clinging on to as an absolute almost is that perpetrator would have cut themselves as well. So whoever they're interviewing right off the bat, I'm hoping that, they were able to check for wounds, etc.
Well, yeah, giving back to personal items yesterday, I mean, it basically effectively closes your crime scene, right? Then we see a video last night of cops going back to the house, which is not a good thing, right? So you closed down the crime scene yesterday afternoon, as far as I was concerned. There's no going back there unless you're just going to take a look and see what's going on. But as far as removing evidence, that chance is over.
And now that's interesting that he pretty much says, like, regardless if there's a patrol cop there, which we heard as of late last night, that there is still a patrol cop watching the crime scene. There is still crime scene tape up, which would insinuate that it's still an active crime scene, possibly on some level. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he's pretty much saying, like, well, you've already given back items from the house to the family. So now the crime scene isn't the same. You know, things have been altered, things have been changed. I believe Ed Wallace was under the same assumptions in a way. Like, once you start taking things out, especially U-Hauls, you know, you would think that things have sort of changed a little bit. And I believe those are Marshalls. Yes. And Marshalls, I don't mean to be a stickler, but it's spelled with one L. So U.S. Marshalls, one L. And the only reason why I know that is because I spelled it wrong and was corrected by a marshal.
And the other thing about the reward is, like, for instance, we don't know how long they've been sitting on this car thing. If they just got it, then that's fine. But if they've been sitting on this car for the last 4 weeks, that would have been the perfect opportunity to put that car description out right away and put a Crime Stoppers reward. Because listen, people will tend to, you know, come across with those tips for money. Then I know they say they got a lot of tips, but unfortunately, I think you get a lot of tips that aren't going to be really, valuable, and they still have to vet them out anyway, which takes a lot of personnel time.
So when do you think they heard about this vehicle? Was it weeks ago? And now they're just telling us, you know, like this guy just said, if that's the case, then that's the problem, you know, or was it they found out and then immediately alert the public or tell the public? You know, I'm hoping that it was something that they ended up finding out. I don't know.
And I just think that a reward up front, you know, and a reward up front wouldn't have shown that they were desperate. A reward now would show that they were desperate. So I don't see that in the future.
I'll add to the last part there, just because it's at the front end of my mind. We're not 100%.
Okay, so I don't know if you recognize the voice, but this is Moscow chief. This statement was from almost a month ago on the 16th of November at the first press conference. At the end, when I think it was around 10 minutes in, where the press is asking him questions, and they asked him about the door being open. And they asked him a two-part question. So that's why he starts us off with, let me answer the second part there because it's fresh in my mind. So this is fresh in his mind on the 16th, only days after the initial murders.
Sure if the door was unlocked, but there was no damage to anything and the door was still open.
So this was something that was discussed in CDT's live stream yesterday. The door was still open, you know, and this sort of backs up and corroborates the neighbor who said, when I walked by at 8:39 in the morning, the door was open. People have said, does he mean open as in unlocked, or does he mean open as in ajar? I'm thinking ajar because he uses the hand motion. Watch his body language when he says the door was open. So this, again, was something that was stated earlier in the case. Obviously, we have the date on the screen. Now, last week, after the neighbor came out saying, yeah, I walked my dog and the door was open, they asked the chief about it and he's like, had no recollection, quote unquote. Now, was that tactic, or was that him possibly forgetting that he had told the press this during the press release? Now, think about it, guys. There's a lot going on, and, you know, everyone at this point in this footage, what these officers walked in on, what they saw, I cannot imagine. Our hearts go out to them because, you know, first responders and all that. I mean, it must have been absolutely horrendous. I mean, we've seen the blood on the outside of the house, enough said, right? So possibly did he forget that he told the press that, or what's going on? Justice served daily. Good to see you. I thought ajar too. Okay, so let me just play this again where we can see his body language. And again, that neighbor that was walking the dog that saw the door open, I don't think that that's Mr. Harsh. I think that's a separate neighbor. So I feel that I'm able to cling to that information a little bit more because it's not from Mr. Harsh neighbor. And it looks as though the chief is backing up what the media reported the neighbor saying last week.
Desperate, so I don't see that in the future.
I'll add to the last part there, just because it's at the front end of my mind. We're not 100% sure if the door was unlocked, but there was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there. There was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
The front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning, was wide open around 8:30, 9 a.m. 8:30 or 9 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside.
2 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor. The Latah County coroner has conducted autopsies, and detectives have been provided with the results of those autopsies. We know that the autopsy
Sorry, guys. It just said my stream was interrupted. Let me just pull up that video file. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Just said stream interrupted. Can you guys hear and see me? Let me know in chat if you can hear and see me, and I'll get us back to that part. Okay, Nicole, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. It just StreamYard kicked me out. Let me try and find that part. Okay. Thanks again, guys. Sorry about that. Hit like for me.
There was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
Now, I heard, or I'd seen before I got kicked out, that Sarah said he means unlocked. And now that's something that I think we discussed yesterday on CDT. Did he mean unlocked, or did he mean ajar? That pretty much is the question. And also, you know, the reason why I titled this, "Where did the perpetrator exit?" You know, what is it possible they entered through the sliding glass door, and then once everything took place, Ethan and Xana were last, they leave out that front door, you know, and left it open as to not like touch it again and leave trace evidence. I don't know, guys. I just think, is it true that the door was open? Judging by what the neighbor said to the media and judging by the first press conference, again, he's not specific. Hopefully today when they give us an update, maybe they could clarify that.
Front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning, was wide open around 8:30, 9 a.m. 8:30 or 9 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside.
2 on the second floor and 2 on the third floor. The Latah County coroner has conducted autopsies, and detectives have been provided with the results of those autopsies. We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims who were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times.
I heard from her before we went out. I think midnight is the last time I heard from her, and she was fine.
Now, I wanted to revisit some of the parents' first statements in the beginning, before law enforcement might have been like, oh, maybe we shouldn't say so much to them. Because I felt like then, you know, they weren't under this like pressure of don't say too much, you know. So here we hear again, we've gone over this before, but Xana's father, I heard from her around midnight and she was fine.
The door locks with the number code.
And here, just re-listening to the statements about the door, I think is interesting as well. It's got a number code. Once it shuts, it seems like that's it. It's locked.
Every time you open it, like I had to go I had to go around the house to get in the house because of the number code. So they either knew that or they just kind of went around and found the slider open.
Now, was the slider open? Or did they use the keypad and knew the combination code? Both of which are very possible. And both of which, obviously, they will use like fingerprint and all that.
They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence.
And this was the first statements by Kaylee's parents. They have a ton of evidence. They also came out saying that he was sloppy. Now, are those statements accurate, do you think? Or do you think that that's just what law enforcement was reassuring the family with? Because again, we're going on a month and we don't have a suspect named or even a description of what the suspect might look like. We just got a vehicle.
It's all digital information.
They're telling us that there's so much evidence that it's going to take a lot of time to process it all. This wasn't like a pinpoint crime. This person was sloppy. He did whatever. When I say he, obviously you can't say that. That's just me. But he made a mess, and there's a mess there, and they're going to have to go through that point by point, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why they reached out to other facilities to help them with that lab work.
They do have a mobile unit on site that they said that they're able to really expedite things with this mobile unit. Hopefully, they're reaching out to other DNA processing type companies such as like 23andMe to get involved. They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence. And evidently today with the new task force, the new FBI task force on site, they said that they were able to pull a ton of evidence from the house today.
So I just wanted to clarify too that these statements you're hearing were from weeks ago, possibly the first statements that the families made.
And they're processing that. So it just takes time.
Was wondering if
Now, this was going around the groups, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I want your guys' input here. Now, they're claiming that they zoomed in and they see Kaylee given that, like, and now I got to turn my camera on, that, like, head nod, like when you're trying to point a certain way without pointing with your hand. So they're claiming she's pointing with her head with a head nod back at Joe V and Hoodie Guy. Let me know what you guys think.
I was going too slow and you were going to switch me back, and I was really scared of that. Do you guys have any Friday nights?
Did you guys see it? I'm going to play it again. And also, I want you to keep in mind what Kaylee's family told us in one of their first statements, that, you know, she would call them and say, I think I see someone following me, or she would take a picture of like a car and be like, you know, here's the license plate. I feel like I'm being followed. Not those words, but you guys know that the family said she was super hyper aware of her surroundings, and she would take pictures or whatever if she needed to, if she felt like somebody was being creepy around her or whatever. So did they come out and say that as just because it was part of the conversation, or had they seen this and knew that like she did take a picture of the guys behind her? You know, because it shows here her hold up her phone. But I don't know. Let me rewind it real quick. You guys let me know your thoughts and all that.
It was wondering if I was going too slow and you were going to switch me back, and I was really scared of that. Do you guys have any Friday nights?
Okay. So this is another portion. This is the part that I wanted to play for you guys, the part that I felt needed a follow-up. Now, we've seen this even on Inside Edition. They're saying that she points at them and says, F you. Well, you know, there's more to it, I think. I think that this gives more clarity to the context, possibly. You guys let me know what you think. But here, not only is she saying F you, the whole sentence, and this is me, I've taken out the food trucks conversation. So this has been edited, but not their conversation. I've just taken out the food truck guys saying that was a big rush, or good job, guys, about the rush that they went through, like with their food truck stuff. I took out their conversation, and I hear, and you guys let me know what you hear, We'd never F you.
Do you guys have any Friday nights?
It ended, but
I can play it again, and I'm sorry if it got super loud. I forgot to give you guys that warning. I turned up the volume and enhanced it too. So sorry if you got earplugs on or whatever, but yeah, I hear we'd never F you. So let me rewind it and you guys let me know your thoughts.
It was wondering if I was going too slow and you were going to switch me back, and I was really scared of that.
Do you guys have any Friday nights?
it ended, but
So yeah, they are laughing. So it might have been a little of a light conversation. Joe says, damn, Raina doesn't hear it. Ashley didn't hear it. Wingbuster says, oh, wow. Sean heard it. Twisted Gemini. Let me hear it again. The FU part obviously is very clear. But once I hear it, once I actually heard it, it's all I hear now. We'd never F you.
And they're processing that. So it just takes time.
It was wondering if I was going too slow and you were going to switch me back, and I was really scared of that.
Do you guys have any Friday nights?
it ended, but
And you can actually see her breath. We'd never breathes. You can see the breath come out of cold air. F you. Again, a lot of people, mixed reviews. I see some people hear it, other people don't. Sarah's saying they're laughing means you aren't in fear. Yeah, I mean, who knows what exactly, but people either hear it or they don't. A lot of people just hear the FU part, which I think is why it was picked up first. You know, that part is so clear. The other part, yeah, in my opinion, I agree with Jody. You have to listen closely. Maybe headphones and all that, but yeah, see, Jen, I kind of hear the we too. It's hard to tell. And that's the thing is, like, I'm not the best professional editor, but you know, there was conversation overlapping their conversation. So either way, yeah, exactly, Tom. And thank you again for the super chat. Her tone of voice almost sounds jokingly, right? And, you know, again, they've all been drinking and hanging out. I don't know if Hoodie Guy was drinking. He seems him and Joe seem very sober. So that was all I had. Can I slow it down? I didn't upload it on YouTube, but once the stream is over, you guys can do the slow down. Yeah, Daniela hears we would never F you. Now that's pretty much all I had to play for you guys today. I can play it one more time and we can conclude there. Thank you for being here. Hopefully we get some new information. For those who joined us later in the chat, we talked about the latest update over the weekends from Moscow police. We played the former CIA, FBI profilers' interpretation of the crime. There was actually a few of them that were on this stream. There was a classmate of Ethan that we played his interview of. We revisited statements from law enforcement and contradictions that have been made and kind of compared it all. Jody doesn't think she's joking around. The whole head nod before this happens too, and them taking the picture. Interesting. Very interesting. And again, thank you all for being here. Hi, Roxanne, and everyone who sent super chats. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. For those who sent PayPal, thank you so much. Thank you for just being here and listening with me and discussing with me. We'll be live later on CDT's channel to further discuss this case. I believe she said 11:15. She'll clarify, I'm sure, in chat. So let me replay this. You guys let me know your thoughts. Do you hear "we'd never F you"? Again, I'm not saying 100% that's what I think, but I'm pretty sure that that was the lead up to the F you part, because everyone was wondering, you know, why would she just point at them and say F you? You know, like what was the context? I do hear "we'd," like she's saying her and Kaylee. I don't know. But anyways, thanks for all the good comments in chat. And thank you, Tom N. And again, everyone else who has hit the thumbs up, thank you so much.
Today, with the new task force, the new FBI task force on site, they said that they were able to pull a ton of evidence from the house today.
Yeah.
And they're processing that.
So
it just takes time.
Was wondering if I was going too slow and you were going to switch me back, and I was really scared of that.
Do you guys have any Friday nights? To end it, but